So this week we're going to talk about how to choose your topic or how to focus your research in a little bit better. Really, when you start getting really great at doing research, you're kind of like a ninja, being able to sneak up on your information, pull things together, and come up with a really great project. So the first thing we need to do is determine what we're interested in. We do have a guide for this course, and that guide is the 7 revolutions. And what I really want everyone to do is to start thinking about which one of the 7 revolutions you're more interested in. Are you more interested in population, resource management, technology, information and knowledge, economics, security, or governance? The reason for this is during this first half of the semester, in groups, you're going to work on creating a section of the LibGuide based off of one of the 7 revolutions. As part of this LibGuide, you'll pull together resources, give a general overview of a revolution, as well as part of the LibGuide, delve a little bit deeper into some aspect or some topic related to one of these 7 revolutions. I'd like for everyone to be able to choose the revolution they're most interested in, but I will split the class equally among all 7 so each revolution is covered. We'll do this Tuesday when we come into class. If you're afraid to do it, we'll do it by lottery. So just start thinking about the one that you want to do. Now, in order to take what you're interested in and start moving it into more of a topic, something you can actually research, you need to start doing a few things. The best thing to do first is to take your sort of interest and create a list of, let's say, 5 or 6 topics. So you may want to do this before you come to class, just to think about things. Once you've found created that list, you need to pick 1 or 2 topics to really investigate. Once you've got those 1 or 2 picked, it's best to go to a general resource like an encyclopedia. This is the part of the research process where it's actually a really good idea to go to Google or to go to Wikipedia. The reason I recommend going to these sources is that you can usually get a really general, nice overview of the resources and the general ideas and themes that relate to that topic. Wikipedia is especially useful for this project. Now, there's a lot of professors who'll tell you not to use Wikipedia. I think it's a really great resource. Over the years, it's been well curated and well worked with, and so you end up with some really great information. Another good reason to check out Wikipedia is that there's a heavy requirement for at least the good articles to be very well sourced, and so you can start getting kind of a leg up on some of the sources you might want to take a look at. Now, if you're doing something a little more scholarly, sometimes it's good to go do a Google Scholar search. And you can take a Google Scholar and look at some of the issues and some of the ideas that are being presented by experts in their fields. This is also a good time to look at some of the more general library databases, and we'll talk a little bit more about those in the coming weeks. Now, when we start to form a topic, there's 2 types of topics you really want to avoid. You don't want to have a topic that's too broad or too narrow. And by too broad, I mean one that has so many possibilities and so many different ways you could look at it that you could never cover it all in the time allotted. The other thing you need to think about is not to make your topic too narrow, especially at this stage of your sort of research career. You're just beginning to really get into research. If you define your topic as being too narrow, you really won't be able to find the appropriate sources in the given time, specifically in a semester-long course like this. That's really where we need to think about our topics, is not so much what we're doing or what we're trying to research, but the given time frame and the scope of the project we're looking at. Since you're looking at an ebook project as your ultimate goal, let's try to focus on something we can get through in this semester. So let's take a look at some bad topics. Of course, we've talked about topics being too broad and too narrow. So let's look at some examples. So an example of a really broad topic would be a topic that's stated as the impact of technology on the world. This could be looked at in so many different ways, and you could write dissertations and books about the impact of technology in the world. And really, there's no way you could really write this in this semester. Another example here would be the use of hyperbole in politics. Now, hyperbole is exaggerated language. As we know, political statements on very many different networks and by very many different politicians are filled with hyperbole. So you could spend years and years and years and years and years on these. Then we also look at the impact of stock prices on the economy. These are really broad topics. Better ways of stating this might be how does fluctuating stock prices in the technology field impact the economy of Silicon Valley. Or we might say, how do the stock prices of our largest banks impact the overall American economy? That might be a slightly better focused statement. When we're talking about the use of hyperbola, maybe we need to pick one specific issue. These are really good ways of taking a look at some of these statements. So for like politics, we might want to say, how have politicians used hyperbola when talking about the current congressional budget? Or if we wanted to do a comparison things, how has hyperbola been used when talking about the current congressional uh, budget and previous congressional budgets? We could pick a year. We talk about technology. We might want to say, how has technology impacted education in K through 12? So we've picked something that's a little more focused. And even then, with the K through 12 discussion, we may want to pick one school or region of schools, something that is a little bit easier to tackle. When it comes to narrow topics, this might be a situation where we've defined our topic in such a small way that we may, one, not be able to find enough resources, or two, not have enough time to really completely analyze the subject. When you have a really narrow topic, oftentimes you have to create your own original data and conduct your own original experiments. And many times that's not something we can do in a standard undergraduate class, specifically a class that's in the core like this one. So my example I've given you of a narrow topic is the impact of the Raspberry Pi computer on technology literacy in Millersville, Georgia. You won't know anything about this particular computer, but they're very hard to get a hold of, and they're only $35, and I don't know of anyone in town who has one. And so this would be an example of something that you haven't seen. It might be something you could research in the future given more time if you had access to Raspberry Pis and you implemented a program that you were watching and you created some experiments associated with it. But in this case, there wouldn't be any kind of secondary source material or any kind of material related to this particular uh, computer available to you. Now, once you've defined your topic, you sometimes need to take a little bit of a step back and think about sources. And this will help you figure out what if your topic's good or not. First thing you want to say is, what are your possible sources for this topic? And if you sit there and you blank out and you cannot think of any sources, you probably had picked a really bad topic. This is not a bad thing. This might be you need to consult with a librarian or your professor, and they can say, well, you need to think about this source or that source. But this is a good indicator that you've chosen a bad topic. Another question you might want to ask when you're thinking about sources at this stage is, where might you find those sources? And if you can't easily identify the location or the possible places where you'll discover sources, again, you've probably picked a bad topic. Now, granted, just as the previous question, you might be able to go to a librarian or professor to help you out. To find the appropriate sources for your topic. So it might be that your topic's not bad, but it's a good indication that off the bat, if you can't think of sources, you might want to rethink things and try to come up with a new topic. We'll talk a little bit more about sources and types of sources next week, but right now, just get general ideas of sources so you can help yourself determine whether or not you've got a good topic. Now, sometimes we're going to get stuck. This is okay. When we're thinking of our topic, we might get bored with this topic. We might not be able to find enough of our sources. And so this is when you need to take a deep breath, go watch a little bit of TV, and wait for some kind of moment of inspiration. There's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of time in the beginning phase of research to be inspired. And sometimes a little bit of inspiration and moving away from what you're trying to think of will help you. You will not be able to come up with a good topic if you sit there and stare at a computer for 2 or 3 hours trying to think of it. So I know you might have deadlines and you might have time constraints, but I really recommend taking a little bit of a break.